Hey everybody, it is August 24th, and here on Tacet Thoughts, episode number 4. Our next guests are pretty cool, and they're another world percussion group people. We're just kind of going through the WPG roster at this point. But our next guests make up the award-winning international percussion duo EASTHAMA. Their partnership began at California State University Northridge in 2014 as they pursued a Bachelor's of Music degree. In June of 2014, they won first place at the Southern California International Marimba Competition against duos from around the world, a competition that Chris was involved in a few years prior to that. Since then, they've performed as a part of the SoCal Marimba Concert Series. They've hosted several recitals at Cal State Northridge and Ithaca College. As co-educators, they taught clinics at Cal Poly Pomona as part of their Percussion and Music Industry Masterclass series at Houghton College, Ithaca College, on topics ranging from chamber music techniques, phrasing, interpretation, arranging, and entrepreneurship and self-management. In 2017, they joined the WPG team, as we already mentioned, for their European tour. They are very passionate about creating unique interpretations of well-known repertoire, as well as premiering new works and original arrangements. In January 2016, they premiered Acquiescent Blues, a new work for vibes and marimba by Gordon Stout, as well as their original arrangement of Ravel's Mother Goose Suite for marimba, percussion, and electronics at the Southern California Marimba Concert Series. In March of that same year, 2017, they performed the U.S. premiere of Contemplations at the Fountain by Maciej Malecki. I really hope I said that one right. A concerto for marimba and vibraphone with the Ithaca College Symphony Orchestra. In 2018, they premiered and recorded Senescence, a new work for marimba, vibes, and percussion, written for them specifically by their friend Dallas J. Howard. Lindsey, one of the members, Lindsey Eastham, is a graduate of Cal State Northridge with a bachelor's in percussion performance, and she has a master's of music degree from Ithaca College, where she was a student and assistant for Gordon Stout. She currently is living in Ithaca, where she is co-director and founder of Unpitched, a new music organization, and is a recent endorser with Marimba One. So, man, congrats on that. That's awesome. And then for the other side of EASTHAMA, originally from Japan, we have Hiromu Nagahama, who is the other half. He received his first bachelor's degree in actually English literature at, forgive me if I say this wrong, Ritsumeikan University in Kyoto, Japan, and then moved to California in 2008. Thanks. After studying for 3 years at Riverside Community College, he transferred to Cal State Northridge to pursue a degree in music. After returning to Japan in 2014, Hiromu came back to the United States to study with Gordon Stout at Ithaca and graduated with his Master's of Music degree in 2017. He's currently living in, all right, here we go again. Make sure I get this one. Hiromu is currently living in Kita, Kyushu, Japan, where he teaches music to local students and community bands. So I'm getting the thumbs up, so I feel like I didn't do too bad on pronunciation. So, yeah, welcome, Lindsey and Hiro, man. It's so great to have you two on.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
Yeah. So, hey, Hiro, can you kind of explain what you're doing over there? I kind of got the general idea, but I'd love to know, like, more about what you're doing now in Japan.
Okay, so, actually I didn't have, like, many connections in the music area in my hometown. So I'm still kind of contacting like many percussionists as much as possible. And I am having, it's like I'm invited for a performance in September. That's like some sort of like a small version of like a PASIC happening in my hometown area. It's like a West Japan, like percussion convention things happening in September, and then I got invited. So I'm going to perform one of marimba piece and also snare drum piece. And then at the convention, like there are many percussionists, like not like a solo percussion, but like only for, but also orchestra percussionists are coming to the convention too. So like maybe I can talk to someone, and maybe I have more opportunity to play percussion stuff in my hometown. So
Right
that's
on.
happening. And also I'm teaching high school and junior high school percussionist here in my hometown, and then like trying to improve like percussion things more like actively in my hometown. So like maybe I can get more job, and also like maybe I can enjoy playing percussion in my hometown area.
Right on. Yeah,
Yep.
man, that's cool. So do you work mostly with younger students for the most part?
Yes, yes.
Yeah, Lindsay, what are you doing in Ithaca? I know you're doing the stuff with Unpitched, but you got anything else going on? Granted, that's a huge
Yes.
thing. So
Yeah. So I just finished IC a few months ago at Ithaca College. So right now I've kind of just gotten back from, taking a break, enjoying being out of school for the first time in a long time. And figuring out, I'm applying to doctoral and performance certificate programs. So that's kind of the first thing on my agenda right now. I'm applying to some schools in the UK, which is on a slightly different calendar than the US schools. So those auditions are starting the end of November. So I'm kind of just working on getting that figured out. And then everything with Unpitched, we are, obviously working on all the things you have to do when you're setting up an organization, getting our website going, figuring out how we're going to handle financial things. But our next big project is going to be a vibraphone commission. So kind of working on getting the ball rolling on that.
that's cool. I feel the being out of school. Like this is my last year of my DMA, which means it's the last year of school ever. So every time
Yeah.
I'm just like I have one more theory class, and it's just like this is the last music theory class I'll ever have to take, and it just like
Yeah.
feels so good.
Right.
Yeah, I think I feel equal parts, excited to have all this free time, but then it's also kind of terrifying,
Yeah,
getting outside of that structure. And especially, I'm in Ithaca, so I still have a little bit of access to the practice facilities at the school. But I think that that's one of the strangest things to me is not having that kind of like practice room vibe mentality every day. It changes a lot of things.
yeah. I know having to like Chris and I seem to talk about Chris and I living together before, like every episode. But
I
when
think he
Chris,
misses me at this point.
I think I do. I'm not gonna lie. But yeah, we had my practice marimba in the living room, and like you could play, but it's just like, I'm still like I ate breakfast here 20 minutes ago,
Yeah.
and it's just hard to separate.
My vibraphone's literally in my kitchen right now in my apartment. I live in this tiny studio apartment, and the vibraphone is just probably like 3 feet away from my kitchen sink. So I feel you on that, trying to kind of get the mental separation.
Yeah, it's hard. It really is.
I think it was.
Yeah.
I think it was hardest just having it that there because we would practice for like 5 minutes, walk over, grab a beer, practice for like another 5 minutes. The pool was literally right outside of our window, so we'd be like, "Let's just go outside," and then we'd spend like 6 hours next to the pool or hot tub drinking beer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's
Yeah.
definitely advantages and disadvantages to having an instrument at home.
Oh, for sure. So, can you talk a little bit about? Oh, sorry, Hiro. Go ahead.
Oh, no, like, I have marimba on the second floor at my house, then, like, it's the same thing. It's pretty hard, because, like, my neighbors are pretty close to my home, so, like, the practice time is limited.
Yeah.
I have to finish, like, practicing, like, by 5 p.m., so, like, my neighbors are okay with it, so.
That's good, man. At least they're understanding.
So, once you just get out to school, then, like, you have to deal with it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Dang. How did y'all get started so much as a duo? Because you kind of just, I guess, met up at in California, and then it kind of just went from there.
Yeah. We actually started, it was pretty coincidental. Hiro was actually supposed to play octobones with someone else, with another Japanese percussionist at Northridge, at Cal State Northridge. And she ended up leaving the school kind of suddenly, and he was going to play it on his recital. So our teacher was just kind of suggested me. And so we played on it was my junior recital and Hiro's senior recital. And we happened to be really close to the Southern California International Marimba Competition, which is where I met Chris for the first time. So we kind of just entered that by chance. and thought, like, what's the worst you can do? Send in a recording. And we ended up winning that competition, and it kind of just all, went from there.
That's cool.
It was very lucky.
Yeah. You're like the third group that has said, like, yeah, we just said, screw it. Let's just enter and see what happens. I feel like that's just everybody's like, yeah, let's just go for it.
That's what Anthony and I did, and we only started as a. He'd probably kill me for saying this. It's really funny how we started out, because I remember being friends with everybody in our studio our freshman year, but Anthony, and I remember kind of this is kind of shitty to say. We can bleep that out, but I remember thinking is like, I don't vibe with that guy. Whatever, just completely left him alone. And he thought the exact same about me. And then Brian Zader claims that he started us together, and it really was because he was lazy and wanted that extra 30 minutes of lunch, I think. But our lessons mine was the first hour, his was the second, and we were taking the same curriculum at that time. So he was just like, well, why don't we do this? 1 week we'll do 30 minutes, Chris, you'll do marimba, then we'll do joint 30 minutes on snare drum, and then Anthony will get 30 minutes marimba, and then the next week it'll be 30 minutes snare drum, 30 minutes joint marimba. And so he claims that he was doing that because he wanted to have a different lesson experience, but he also had the hour and a half lunch afterwards. And we joked about playing a duet for our jury, and I think it was the Sejourné's Losa is what we played, yeah. And then we decided the next semester to just do a full joint recital, all duets, and that's when we first did octobones, just like everybody else at the time. And we ran into Lynn Vartan, and she was the one who was just like, you guys should just come out to this competition. And we were like, well, it's like $25 to enter. We'll send a tape. They'll tell us we suck, and that's it. And then we got invited, and we were like, cool. Well, neither one of us have been to California. It's a free road trip. Whatever. We'll go there. They'll tell us we suck, and we leave. And, it's just kind of one of those things. We just kind of went there just for fun, and somehow wound up winning. I'm not sure how to this day, but yeah.
Yeah, I mean, similar experience. I think there is something to be said kind of about going into those competitions without expectations, because I really think that that's why we ended up winning that competition, because we went in and I think so we both studied with Naoko Takata, kind of it was just kind of happenstance that happened that way. We both had taken some lessons with her outside of school, and she was one of the judges when we did it. And so I remember her telling us when we got into semis, that we had placed last, and that they let us in because we were really close, and they didn't want to make someone travel to California that didn't have a chance. So that was totally our mentality going into it. When we went into semis, we're like, great, we're getting to play in front of all these people, and we just had a really great time. And then when we went into finals, we were against Twin Cushion, which is a really great duo from Taiwan, who are actually identical twins, which is incredibly intimidating to go up against as a duo. And so I think with that performance, we were just going out on stage, and it's like, great, we're going to get second at, this competition. We just had a blast again. So I'm not surprised that a lot of people say that they go into competitions just, because they wanted to try.
That's how we felt too when we got there and realized in the semifinal the semifinals was Escape 10 was also there, and I was just like, wow, they're incredible. We're not going to outplay them. That's amazing. And then, which I'm still not convinced that we did, but and then there was the par duo from Hong Kong, which is marimba and hammered dulcimer. And, they were incredible too. And I remember watching, because I made the mistake of watching the semifinals after we played, because we went first, and I was just like, so that gave it away to us. I was just like, yeah, we're done. I remember watching them and going to the bar with Tony afterwards, going, this is fun. This is a good opportunity. And then we advanced to the same round. I was just like, somebody got robbed, and I feel horrible.
Yeah. I think there was an Australian duo there. I can't remember their name right now, but I remember they were just really mature players. I think they were in their 40s. They were married, and honestly, I heard that they just set up in a weird way, and the judges didn't like it. Anything can happen in a competition that can bump you.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I think ours was that Kevin Bobo liked what we did, because he was the guest judge, and we for the semifinal round didn't have any other mallet duets. So we did Gene Kaczynski's As One, which is got a marimba in it, but it's totally not a mallet duet.
Yeah.
And then and I remember Kevin at the dinner at the end was kind of laughing about, he said, I thought it was hilarious both watching you guys walk out with at the time we're using the Mike Walter Rattan series at the request of the Maracatu. And then he's like, not only did you come out with these like crazy vibraphone mallets for marimba, he's like, but then you had the balls to play a multi-duet at a marimba competition. It's like, yeah.
Oh, that's good. Man. So what, do y'all have any opinions on the competition circuit as a whole? Like, do you favor it? Do you shy away from it now? Or is that part of your career over?
What do you think, Hiro?
Well, I don't know, but like, sometimes you need to have like a kind of sort of a big goal to achieve. So like, if you don't have like goal, then like probably you don't get like much like skills or something. I don't know, experiences included. But yeah, so at that point, probably like the participating in the competition is kind of like worth to do. But like at the same time, like it's like you get nervous. I get nervous. I don't know, maybe some people don't get nervous, but like getting nervous is like something you need to learn. But like you don't usually get it by yourself, right? Because you just jumped in the competition, then you start feeling like, then like you have to learn how to deal with it, and then that kind of experience you can use it when you become a professional percussionist, I think. And I think that's kind of like a good point, participating in the competition. Also, like you can make connection with judges, and then also like, other competitors, and I think that's kind of nice. Yeah. So that's why we are doing right now this, because like we met Chris, and then Chris introduced, and like we all now talking each other, and nationally, I'm in Japan, so
yeah.
I agree with what Hiro said. I think neither of us are very competitive people that like really set out to just win everything. And some people view competitions as with more importance than others. But I think the biggest thing for us was really connections, because if you kind of trace back everything we've done, it really all started with that competition. Even where we both went to grad school in Ithaca, that's where we met Gordon. And Gordon brought Hiro there, and I came a year later so that we could be together as a duo. And to be honest, like sometimes building resume material is really important, even though it kind of sucks to think about it just in that way. But there's not many things as musicians that you can put on paper that people will be like, oh, they must be good, because we're mostly relying on people hearing us and seeing us. So sometimes it does really come in handy to be able to like have those resume points, I think, to put down. However, I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, but
yeah, we talked with Cameron Leach some about his experience with competitions. I think we all just came to agreement that like, yeah, music competitions kind of like shouldn't be like competitions shouldn't be a thing like how they are, like it shouldn't be competitive music in that idea, but like what you get out of it as far as networking and like just preparing for a competition, like getting to that level and like preparing for the nervousness and just you get so much good out of it that it's not a bad thing at all. I've met very few people that are like, man, I can't wait to go to that duo competition, kick Easthama's ass. I can't wait for it. I'm gonna get it. Just like no one's like. I don't think anyone's like that. I hope not. I haven't met them yet.
I think I've told myself every year that I'm going to prepare for Tromp this year, and then I just talk myself out of it. Just like I spend like a week where I'm like, I'm going to do this, and then after that week I'm like, no, I'd rather die.
I think competing as a soloist must be so much more nerve-wracking. I mean, Hiro's competed at both of the competitions we've done. Hiro's done solo as well. But I feel like with duo, you can get away with more, like, it's a little bit more about the performance, and you actually are kind of putting on a show because you have that connection with at least the other person. But as a soloist, I can't imagine it. Maybe Hiro can describe the solo experience a little better.
Well, yeah, like, so I did both division at the both competitions, and then, like, the first one was okay, because, like, I wasn't kind of trying to get like any prize, but, like, I don't know what to say, but accidentally I got second. So lucky, that's it. So yeah. Anyway, so, like, I didn't feel kind of nervous too much, but the second one, Oklahoma one, I got nervous so hard, and then, well, like, I couldn't prepare enough for the solo division much, because, like, what do we do? Like,
it was right after WPG. I think we had like 3 weeks in between.
Exactly. So, like, I didn't have enough time to prepare for that. Then, like, I got nervous so hard, and then, like, I don't know, like, the last 10 measures or something, like, I just, like, made, like, ad-lib things, you know, like, I just play, like, a wrong notes, and then, like, kind of, like, my own composition there. And then, like, after the competition, I just laughed so hard on myself, you know. Do you remember that, Lindsey?
I do remember. I thought Hiro was broken for a second. He just came out of the room just hysterically laughing for, like, and also admittedly, you were playing, it was the Source, right? That you messed up on?
It wasn't Source. It wasn't Source.
It was
Ripple. That was
Ripple, which
yeah.
I don't know very well, so I didn't know that he had just completely made up an ending, you know. So he just came out the stage just hysterically laughing for probably like 5 minutes. I remember sitting in the lobby and being like, "Are you okay? Did that go well? Did that not go well?"
Yep. Well, anyway, but, like, so when I play, like, duo things, like, I feel, like, way better, because, like, in front of me, I can see Lindsey's face, and then, you know, we laugh each other when we play, so, you know, like, communicating each other, then, like, I feel, like, less nervous, and then, like, even if, like, Lindsey makes some mistakes or something like that, I really don't mind, you know, like, I just keep going, Lindsey comes back, something like that.
Yeah. Man, it seems like, and I find this with all the good duos or chamber groups, like, y'all's friendship and personal relationship is just so healthy and, like, strong. And I couldn't imagine, like, being in a duo with somebody and being like, this person. Like, I feel like your personal vibe is so much of it.
We've spent a lot of time together at this point, which I think has contributed to it. Just a lot of time traveling, a lot of time. We used to do crazy amounts of practice when we were at CSUN. We would do, like, 9-hour days on weekends, because we'd have to actually take apart a marimba and move it through the door, like, that it was a standard size door into the percussion studio, so we could only practice on weekends. So we would spend almost the whole entire weekend, you know, together. But I do agree, we're very different people, but I think we're very complementary. We found ways to complement each other's, like, tendencies very well.
I can agree to that. That's a really important comment to make, I think, because I've done groups, admittedly, where I played with people that I did not vibe well with all, and I tried to stay in there way too long, and I know I didn't make the situation better for them, and they didn't make the situation better for me. But going back to talking about Tony, it's like I could say the same thing. We are two completely different people. He was like drum corps Brian Zader miniature junior, and then I'm just like the weird mess that is me. Like, Tony he could learn anything at the drop of a hat. It would take him at least an eighth the amount of time it would take me. I remember him coming back and said we were working on the first movement of Spices, and he had learned a page and a half doing the Keiko Wabe method, just, like, looking at it on the plane, and came back and played it. He played it on the marimba, and I was just like, I've been working on this for a week, and it's kicking my ass. But yeah, there's that connection that you have. We lived together for a couple of years. We hung out all the time. We practiced all the time. We got to the point where we knew each other so well. Like, it was both of our wives admitted it being intimidating. I even joked with his wife at their wedding that she might have married him, but I'd always be his first love.
That's good.
Tony, if you're listening to this, I love you. I miss you so much.
It's getting weird.
It's gonna get weird.
All right, let's just wrap it up now. So, do y'all have? So, is this the first time y'all have been apart as a duo, like Japan to America, or was there a part where you
No.
was separated?
The second time, I guess.
Yeah, so we're going on the second year of this time. And then I was at Cal State Northridge, I think, for 2 years after Hiro left. So he graduated and went back to Japan for 1 year. And so we were in California and Japan. And then I actually went out and visited him in Japan during that time. And we did a lot of rehearsing there. And then he was in New York for a year while I was still in California. So we've been apart for actually we've only been together for 1 year out of the, I guess, 4.5 years that we've been playing together. And we got a lot done that year.
And so, do y'all have more duo stuff? I know you just recorded some videos, and they're really cool. Good job.
Yeah.
Thank you.
But do you have more duo stuff coming up in the future that y'all will be doing together?
Well, we actually don't have any plans yet, but like we will, for sure. I think.
Yeah.
Well, we do have one plan.
That's yeah.
Yeah, we already have one masterclass booked right now in California in May. So we're kind of just in the beginning of getting this set up, but we're hoping to do kind of like a academic tour, play at a few schools out there. This is the first time that neither of us have been in school, so it's the first time that we're actually able to travel during the school year. So we're going to be looking at doing that. But we're definitely presenting at Cal Poly Pomona in May, which will be our second time there. They have a really cool percussion masterclass series that they do every year. They have like 3 days that they bring in people.
Cool. Have y'all ever considered applying as like a duo? Like to perform at a focus day or a clinic?
Yes.
Of course.
I think we're going to apply for, I mean, obviously not this year, but next year.
Yeah.
And I think those applications happen in January.
Yeah, I think
somewhere around there.
somewhere.
Clearly need to look into it a little bit more.
So I do have one short little thing. It'll take me just a second to read. You've probably seen, and please feel free to interrupt or weigh in if you want, but you've probably seen this article that's going around that is not great, but it's by this guy named John Hishin. It's been going around social media sites, and the title is, emphasis on the word tragic, it's The Tragic Decline of Music Literacy and Quality, in parentheses it says and quality. So right off the bat, it's kind of a pretentious title. But just to kind of give you the synopsis of it, it's a little long, but it's not great. The author basically states that he was fortunate enough to be in a quality music program growing up. This guy, I can't say for certain, but he's probably ballpark 50, 60 years old. So he says that it wasn't just enough to read music, you need to sight read, which is reading without prior practice. And he says, sight reading would quickly reveal how fine-tuned playing chops really were. So kind of off the bat, I have a little bit of an issue. It seems kind of an elitist stance to me. Sight reading is not the end-all be-all, but he already starts from this point of I'm good, and if you can't sight read, then you don't have finely tuned chops, which, I mean, that's just one part of the puzzle, in my opinion. But obviously, sight reading is a critical skill for a musician, and this, especially in this traditional Eurocentric model of classical music that we all live in and work in. But there's obviously plenty of musicians out there that don't read at all or read very little traditional notation, and they can play circles around a lot of people. So the author goes on and he says that if you play only by ear, you'll never have the same depth of understanding of music, which I feel, again, is just really elitist. I would say it's false, in my opinion. He also says that jazz and classical art forms require music literacy as well as players to be at the top of their game in technical proficiency, tonal quality, and creativity. He cites Coltrane practicing 6 to 9 hours a day and talks about his commitment and how if you're not musically literate, you can't really exist in the jazz and classical worlds, which again, I have an issue with. We can always talk about the fuel that got Coltrane to practice 6 to 9 hours a day. That's a whole other thing. But he cites this research, this kind of suspect. The question's super vague. It's just, can you read music? And then it says, i.e., can you read music notation, like written notation? So 50% say no. And we don't know how many people are surveyed. It's just people.
And who's he, sir? Just random people?
Apparently it's just random people. So it could be people on the streets, could be a college. We have no idea. So 50% say no. 21% say yes, but poorly, like at an amateur level. And the rest are a mix of yeses from moderate to professional musicians. So he talks about how bad and how ashamed he is of this, but I was like, that's 30% at some point of music reading. I just like, if you can, I mean, it's 29% as the number is, but if you assume out of that 50, at least some of those are musicians that play by ear. So we can just safely say that maybe 30, like 30% of your populace you did plays music. I think that's kind of cool. Like, what is, I can't name 30% of the population that does any one thing besides like has a Facebook. Like, obviously more people have that, but like 30% of the population, like what if 30% of the population like wrote poetry? We'd be like, whoa, that's crazy. Or if 30% played like municipal sports or did visual art, or 30% danced or learned foreign languages or anything like that. It's kind of crazy to me. But he goes on to cite some research that basically says that after analyzing music, we don't know what, just music, that they analyzed timbre, pitch, and loudness, and they said that over the past 60 years, loudness has increased a decibel every 8 years, especially with the concept of compression. So we can compress the music so the quiet parts are much more audible to our ears, and the louder parts are reduced so it's more within itself. He talks about how timbre has become less timbres over time with the invention and inclusion of electronics, and it created this homogeneous timbre that has attributed to all music sounding the same. And again, and then he says the number of pitches and chord variety has also lessened. And it comes back to this idea I have of like, when I hear my classical music friends say like, oh man, you're listening to pop music, which by the way, like I lived in Vegas for a while, like I played there, like I listen to pop music, like I listen to a lot of popular music. It's just like, okay, so when you listen to Beethoven, your appreciation is like, oh, look at all those different instruments and all those fancy chords. And it's just, I feel like his argument is so weak. Like if you have a little depth of music. I don't know if y'all have any thoughts on that, but it's this article I've seen shared a lot, like a whole lot of people.
Well, so I've actually seen that headline, but I haven't read this article. And I think most of the reason why is because I got a Chrome extension that takes away my Facebook newsfeed. But it does sound like a very poorly written article. And I think I get the gist of what he's saying, maybe. Like and I think the first problem is separating pop music as a genre from like top 40, what's on the radio every day. Because I think that's what, and not that there's anything wrong with top 40, what's on the radio. There's some good stuff out there. But I think a lot of people, as soon as you say that something's pop or that you listen to pop music, they're automatically assuming one thing, when really I kind of view pop as more of a genre. And there's lots of pop music that you're never going to hear on the radio, right?
Right.
I think I know what he's getting at, but I do agree that it's a very pretentious and also really Eurocentric attitude to have, because there's music that's way more complex than Western classical music that's never notated. You know, if you look at Indian music or Latin American music, you know, these things aren't going to be written down, but there's no way that, you know, I could play them. You know, I couldn't go up to tabla and be like, I can read music, so that means I can play this incredibly complex instrument, you know.
I think that's a great point to make too, though, because we talk a lot about like Indian drumming, West African drumming, even like Brazilian drumming was something we talked about last night, and there is a lot of resource out for it that you can read, but I don't think I know a single person that will tell you that you can get proficient or even decently solid at it without taking the time to go and submerge yourself in that like culture and that style and be with somebody that's lived it, learned it, and breathed it their whole life. Like, you know, we've talked about this before. I've like worked with Brazilian ensembles. I taught one at undergrad, taught one here at Colorado State. I taught one when I was back in Dallas. I mean, to myself, the understanding was I had never had that full experience of being in that real scenario as like a Brazilian percussion like samba group. So what I was giving was inauthentic. As much as I wanted it to be authentic, and even then, I didn't have the experience for them to experience anything from me. But like that whole argument that's saying that it's not real if it's not something you can read, I think falls flat right there just from a cultural standpoint.
Yeah, it's a messy article. It's a mess. Like, it's not one of those things where you can like pick the right side. Like the right side is like somewhere in the middle of everything. Like, yeah, it's important to be able to read music if you're going to exist in the Eurocentric model. But you know what? I'll tell you right now, like, my school right now and my master's had pretty killer jazz programs, but I have a feeling that all the guys and girls, either way, down in Louisiana that have been like playing from like they could hold sticks and have been playing drum set that long can probably like smoke all those people. Like, yeah.
Well, you can go see like the jazz style marching bands in New Orleans, and you'll see like some of those like street bands that are like literally children. Like I think the last time we were there, you weren't there. You backed out on us.
The road flooded. People lost lives. I didn't go.
But anyways, we were there and we were walking around, and there was like a brass band that was there, and then I think the oldest kid had to have been like 14, and they were incredible. Like, they were standing up, they were playing charts for 2 hours. We sat there and watched. They had improvisation, they had communication, everything. It was just like, it was like regular conversation for them. They weren't like playing the instrument. That was just what they did. And I refuse to believe at that point. I mean, I'm sure they've had some like formal training, but like, I'm sure just being in that culture, and that's the family they were raised in and the groups that they've lived in, that just became who they were. And it was mind blowing nonetheless. But
yeah. I feel like if I tell you the last part of this article that kind of talks about the guy, your opinion will shift a little bit, more in our favor. So the author is president of Henshin Associates, a firm that matches financial advisors to independent broker-dealers. He has articles on finance in the Wall Street Journal, Bloomberg, Reuters, New York Post. So it's kind of like...
I thought he was a professional musician, though.
Right? You think that.
Probably like a symphony donor.
Maybe he just couldn't sight read fast enough to get the gigs, you know?
Probably couldn't.
Well, I'm not good at sight reading.
Me either. If sight reading defines you, man, I'm out.
Yeah.
That's surprising since Zader made us do it all the time.
Yeah.
I still hold the high score for it. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. Go ahead.
No, it's all good. That was the thing that kind of first struck me when you started reading that article about him talking about sight reading as if it was some lost art, you know. And of course, we're all at different levels, but I feel like there's no one, you know, going to music school, there's no one that's just like, yeah, you don't need to sight read. We're over that now, you know?
Yeah.
Well, like, music is language to me, because like I speak Japanese and then English, like maybe enough to communicate with you guys. But yeah, like if you don't know anything, like you can't speak anything. Like if you don't know music well, then like there's no way you can play music. But like, you know, on reading notations or like doing sight singing is just exercise, you know, like knowing grammar to speak English, you know, it's the same thing. So like for children, like they don't actually need to know the grammar well, but like they can speak, right? Like, they can speak Japanese or they can speak English, the same thing. But like at some point, like they need to know how to read, how to write English or Japanese to be adult enough, like to go to like a school, like a high school, college, or something like that. So to me, like learning music is like learning another language to communicate each other. But even if it's so, like there's something like a Brazilian music, like you need to get like some sort of like a real feeling to play the grooving. Also, like Japanese, like we don't have like a Western style music notation. We have like just a letter and then like a dash and a space and like a wavy things that like that point, like you have to vibrate or something, like vibrato, like you have to do vibrato or something like that. Like music is like a pretty deep, but like yeah, it's just like language to me.
Yeah. I actually I just joined the Cornell Gamelan Ensemble.
Cool.
Which is something I've been interested in a really long time, mainly because of gamelan's influence on just the creation of the vibraphone. And Cornell has a really great gamelan ensemble. So I just joined it, and actually I was writing the teacher, and I was telling him who I wanted to do it. And he was like, "That's great. We really could use some of with your experience. Can you play a gig with us this Saturday?" And this was maybe like Monday, have never touched gamelan ever. And he was like, "No, you'll be fine." And so, I said, sure, let's do it. And so he sent me the scores, and it was a completely different notation system. It was basically numbers. It was tablature, but there was rhythm indicated on it with lines over the numbers. And it was such a refreshing experience to kind of just to be schooled at something that you think would be so simple. I was playing an instrument that had 7 notes on it, and I was just, for a couple of days, I was just staring at this thing and reading guides online and trying to interpret this music that, first of all, is almost always taught by rote. This was totally a Western innovation to like write down gamelan tablature. But it was just a really great experience to kind of experience it all again, learning how to interpret a new notation system. I guess it's kind of like what we get to do when we're playing like a multi-percussion piece, where you're seeing the same notes that you would always see on the staff, but all of a sudden, they mean different things. But yeah, it was a really interesting experience.
Wow, that's really cool. I've never done gamelan either.
It's almost like meditating, to be honest. I mean, this was a very condensed gamelan ensemble. There's only 4 of us. But most of the charts would either be entirely repeating or have like a small repeated section and then you move on. And like I said, I was playing an instrument called a sarone, which I'm sorry if I'm not saying that right, but it only had 7 bars, so it wasn't technically challenging. But yeah, I mean, we played the same set 4 times at a zoo. It was for an elephant festival. And by the end of it, it was just like, it was so relaxing. I'm really excited to get to play with the entire ensemble and get to kind of experience that sound with, like 20 people playing.
Yeah, I bet. So speaking of weird sidetrack, but so I was watching your videos, specifically your new one you just released, Sorcerer's Apprentice, and also your Mother Goose Suite, and both of you do something that I really love and that I have trouble getting my students to do it, and sometimes I have trouble getting myself to do it, but you both have this arm movement and emoting, this like very natural and very fluid, and it doesn't feel forced. Like it doesn't feel like sometimes you see the people that, no offense to drumcore or WGI, but they come back and they play like Caritas or something by Michael Burritt, and they just get way too into it, and they like, it's just like, okay, that's a little too much emotion. But I feel like, yeah, y'all are one of the duos that, and Chris and Tony were the same way, that it's very visually pleasing just to watch. Even with the sound off, like you can tell the mood and tell what's going on. And it's just something I really appreciate. Did you work on that with Stout or in Cal State or? Just on your own, maybe?
Is that a Naoko influence?
Oh, yeah.
I think
right.
it was a Naoko influence.
But that's
To be
one of my
honest, yeah.
favorite parts of her playing. I love watching her play.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I think it actually starts though with kind of what you're talking about with that almost like choreographed, really extra movement. Because when I started playing with Hiro, I didn't move at all. You know, I just like stood behind the marimba, didn't do anything. And Hiro probably moved more than you do now. Would you say that, Hiro?
I think so. Yeah.
So I kind of learned from Hiro. So maybe Hiro can share where he learned it from.
Well, like maybe like taking lesson from Naoko is just like the key to express myself a little bit, because I didn't know how to express myself on marimba, but like she just taught me like the movement a little bit, but like I just like use that kind of idea and start like expressing myself, sort of. Then like at some point like I felt like maybe I'm doing a little bit too much, because like I'm playing like so many wrong notes. It's like doing like moving like a left and right and up and down, like moving my arms like up and down or something like that. Then like, okay, maybe that's too much. So like I kind of like focusing on a little bit more like a timbre of the sound or something. And then like that's the reason why I stopped like moving. Like I'm kind of moving less than before.
Yeah, I think for me, when we were preparing for the competition, we worked a lot with Naoko, and she was really kind of on our case about the performance presence and expressing the music through movement as well. So at first, it definitely felt super forced and very like choreographed. I even remember like there's one part of Toccata where the vibes just like hit. It's just like you hit two notes and then for a second you have like a measure off, and I remember her being like, you need to hit those, and then like the audience is going to be on this side, so you're going to turn this way and all this stuff, and it was all really contrived at first, but I think having that experience, like knowing certain moves I was going to do and doing them on stage during the competition, you get a lot more comfortable moving in that way, and then after a while it just kind of happens. And a lot of it, I think the more mature that Hiro and I have gotten, for both of us, especially studying with Gordon, who's so sound oriented, like he's not really as concerned with how you look when you play, that through studying with Gordon, a lot of our motions have come to be more aimed at affecting our tone now. And you know, like everyone, like we still, I think, in performance get caught up and move more. We definitely move more when we're performing live, and even to this day, like that will still get us in trouble. I don't discourage it from anybody, because I really think that that's what a lot of audiences like about EASTHAMA, is kind of like the energy and excitement. And you know, sometimes that makes us miss notes, but so far I don't think anyone cares. If there's anything I've learned from EASTHAMA, is that if you're having like a really good time and you're communicating that to your audience, that's really what they want to see. Not they don't, you know, the average audience member is not going to be counting the notes you miss in octabones or something, you know?
Yeah.
Well, that's kind of similar things. I feel like I got a really similar experience out of Eric Hollenbeck here at Colorado State, because he's technique oriented, but my least favorite word I've come to hear is the word academic, because every single lesson it'd be like, yeah, it sounds great, it just looks really academic. Or when it stopped looking academic, it started sounding academic. I couldn't figure that out, and then so I did my graduate thesis over like gesture and percussion, whether it's through sound, implement, or instrument, and trying to figure out the ways to, like, it was all geared towards me and my personal lessons, going, how can I get him to stop saying that damn word? And so, like, working on pieces like Reflections on the Nature of Water, I got really into doing a lot of transcriptions, doing like a whole bunch of Chopin and some others that, which is really funny when we were talking about percussion history and how that's what we wanted to get away from in the beginning. which led to people writing new music. But then I was just like, oh, look at this, and then my friend Kana Amori sent me some of her arrangements as well, and I was just like, this is my life now. But it's like trying to figure out how to get gesture to focus the sound that I wanted so it would appeal to him. But I feel like trying to appeal to him for like the past 2 years has like really transformed my performance quite a bit. Because I remember even at undergrad, I wasn't very big in the visual performance until I started working with Tony again, who came back from Cavaliers and was just all visual performance. And so we would play together, and I would sit there and watch how entertaining he was to play, because he at least had a good mind of not doing too much for the most part. And I would sit there and watch the videos of our rehearsals and going like, man, he looks great. I look bored, and I need to figure that out. But yeah, I do like the comment about like the approach of like visually how can you affect the sound. And I know there's been multiple like acoustic surveys done by acousticians and everything. And I know Lee Howard Stevens has been on one, and Michael Burritt did the same one, I believe, and had a different response where they were really trying to determine whether or not like a stroke type varied the length of sound from the marimba. And they were playing the different stroke types, and the recording would come back and they would say it's not really enough to justify calling it different. But then Burritt pushed the idea that, it's like, well, what about the perception? It may not physically change the length, but people will hear it differently. And so they measured like the whole idea of what are you seeing and how does that affect what you hear? And that, like, you show length of sound, people will hear length of sound.
Yeah. That's actually what I'm thinking about doing my DMA research in. Not so much in gesture, but in I've come across a lot of those studies on marimba gesture and kind of trying to research what's already been done about this, but kind of starting to investigate just tone quality, which I still don't even know if it can be quantified, but I know that, by changing like your weight distribution in playing marimba, you can get an entirely different tone, right? But there isn't really, I don't think there's been a lot of research done about exactly how and why that happens. But I'm pretty sure it can be measured. At least the perceptible tone difference should have different like overtones, So I don't know. I'm glad people are getting this deep into the research side of playing marimba, because it's such a new instrument, Yeah. But as far as teaching the gestures in playing marimba, I find that normally when I'm having someone work on a specific gesture, it's to change how they're playing the note, so to change like their tone on it, right? And I do a lot of, actually both Hiro and I do a lot of demonstrating for students and having them just like copy how our arm moves. But I find that some students respond better to like, oh, you need to move like this. And then some students respond better to, oh, it needs to sound like this. And they figure out like how to make their body work that way.
Yeah. I know I've heard several times that Pius Chang, I think he worked in a library or something, like his college library, that he would just watch Yo-Yo Ma play. And when you think about how Yo-Yo Ma plays, then you watch Pius play, it's like, yeah, he's been watching, like, you just absorb. And it's funny because Chris and I both do this classic Brian Zader, like, foot kick. And all of Brian Zader's students do this weird foot kick, like, every 3 seconds.
Hiro
like
does the foot kick.
Yeah!
He got it from I know he got it from Keiko, though.
That's true.
Naoko.
Yeah.
Okay,
Naoko does it too.
That's a DMA subject, the lineage of the marimba foot kick. Trace it back to the start.
That'd be perfect.
Yeah, speaking of marimbas, so Lindsey, you just got an endorsement with Marimba One, right? Is it just vibraphone, or is it mallets, marimba, everything? Or
So it's the official name is Marimba One Vibraphone Artist, but they don't really have like just mallet artists, so
right.
I think it's just they kind of were starting a new category when I was talking to them. It kind of reminds me of in Cameron's interview, he was talking about coming on with Malatech and them kind of being like, how do we like bring you on? What category do we put you in? And at the time I was talking to them, I already had a one vibe from them. So that was mostly what I was talking to them about. And I kind of, it wasn't really intentional, but over the past few years, I've kind of just started specializing more and more on vibraphone. So yeah, it just kind of happened that way. I'm the marimba 115 artist.
Nice. Yeah, congrats again. I'm waiting
That
for
is awesome.
the day where like your college master's DMA audition says like one contemporary four mallet marimba or vibraphone solo. Like I would love to
Yeah.
see someone audition with like two vibraphone solos and maybe something on marimba.
I mean, I think vibraphone honestly does get underestimated.
Mhm.
I mean, I think in my undergrad, I was kind of lucky that our teacher, we both had him, John Magnuson, was a really excellent jazz vibraphone player and also a great, classical percussionist. So he really had a lot of like the finesse on vibraphone that you kind of miss out on learning about sometimes, I think. Or I've noticed undergrad students that have not quite got that. But I do think it has so many possibilities. Like it's one of the few instruments that we get to control duration so easily, and I think that being able to pedal and dampen give you so many timbres and articulations that aren't quite as possible on marimba. There's advantages and disadvantages. Like having to always have it either dampened or not dampened creates some issues that you would never have on marimba. But even going into this next round of auditions and stuff for DMA, I've been writing schools asking, like if I can put a vibraphone solo on the audition, or I'm even auditioning for a few marimba only programs that I'm writing to them and asking like, I know this is marimba only, but really like, why not marimba and vibraphone? So
Yeah.
It is an interesting point to make that I don't see a lot of contemporary vibraphone players or even just like classical vibraphone players, because like around here jazz is like a huge thing, and the adjunct professor Shiloh Stroman is equal parts incredible drum set player and jazz vibe artist, and yeah, he makes everything look effortless, and I see a lot of great vibraphone players around here that are in the jazz spectrum. But there's a guy that lives up here now. He just finished his master's, I believe, in Kansas somewhere, but he lives up here in northern Colorado. A guy named Michael Karp, and he did Tromp Festival as well. But he came and played for us, and we watched some of it. He played several pieces, and I wish I could remember the name of them. But like I remember his entire performance there was a lot of vibraphone on there, and there was a lot of really interesting, unique vibe pieces that I'd never heard of before. And that was like I kind of felt ashamed that was one of my first times where I was thinking, well, why isn't this like a solo vibe kind of career like thing? I've never thought of somebody playing vibraphone in this avenue. And it was,
yeah.
I mean, it was incredible. It blew my mind the entire time. It was such an amazing performance. But like I'm guilty of not thinking of serious vibraphone literature. And then we're friends with Samuel Peretzullo, who has written multiple incredible like contemporary vibraphone pieces, and I just never take the time to think of playing them.
Honestly, I think one of the biggest challenges is that, like, if you think of a typical college percussion studio, the vibraphone they have is usually in not that great shape. Vibraphones take a lot of maintenance, and the whole pedal mechanism is so integral to how you play that even if you're a really great vibraphone player, there's just things that you can't do if the pedal's not working properly. Yeah. So I think that could be part of the reason why it kind of gets left behind. Because I mean, even going like we had some nice old Deegan vibes in my undergrad that had great tone quality, but maybe not a super responsive pedal. And then at Ithaca we have just like the standard Yamaha vibe, and once I got the one vibe, the difference in just the amount of finesse you could have with the pedal, I feel like my playing just went in this whole different direction, and obviously like any vibraphone that's in really good shape is going to give you that. But I think that might be part of it. It's just that vibraphones at most schools are not very well maintained. And if you're going to a competition, you have no idea what the, like, I remember the vibraphone at the Southern California competition, like the damper bar wasn't even, like some notes would keep ringing. I ended up bringing my own vibraphone to Oklahoma because that's honestly like one of the riskiest instruments to play in a competition, because they're just not, especially at a marimba competition, they're not, you know, like getting Adams to send over their newest vibraphone like they do with the marimbas. So yeah, it's risky and sometimes they're just not playable.
Yeah, there's so much cool vibrat. I mean, even like Vibra the man, it's so cool. But it gets played so rarely, I feel like. Like I never see it programmed as much.
The piece, and this has actually been around for a couple years, but I just had like just completely flew over my head. But it's been blowing my mind. Economy of Means by Robert Holstein. Yeah. Or The Economy of Means. And it has a bunch of like prepared movements where you have tinfoil on the vibraphone or using rubber mallets. And that piece to me is like what I want to see more of on vibraphone.
For sure. Do y'all have anything coming up? Well, we kind of mentioned it, but do y'all have anything you've done or coming up that you'd like to promote or like people to know about? I know you had the Great Sorcerer's Apprentice videos and everything else that happened recently, but any other cool things that you want to tell us about?
So I'm, if you keep an eye out for Unpitched, it's actually un/pitched on Facebook, or I mean, of course, I'll be sharing on my website or my Facebook page. We're about to put out a call, not quite a call for scores, but a call for applications from composers for new vibraphone solos. And basically the project is going to be, we're putting out an open call and we're going to select one composer based on their application. They'll win a cash prize and we'll be commissioning a vibraphone solo for vibraphone and auxiliary percussion. And then we have kind of the whole idea of Unpitched is a network. So we already have a lot of composers in our network that are also going to compose a vibraphone solo for the same collection of instruments. So we'll actually be putting out a collection of 5 to 6 brand new vibraphone solos and touring with them in the spring. So if you're a composer listening, if you keep an eye out for the Unpitched Vibraphone Commission project, it should be coming out, applications should be coming out around September 1st. So if you just check on my pages, we're kind of still building up the website. There is something there. If you want to look at it, it's unpitched.org. But if you check out my pages, you'll see that coming up really soon.
That's cool. That's why y'all are on here, by the way. I'm trying to sweeten my application. Yeah, that's what it is.
His music is awful. I wouldn't even play a lick of it.
Thanks.
Well, you should definitely apply. I think we're looking at like a $10 application fee. So
that's nice. Yeah, that's great that y'all have that going on.
Yeah, it's all very new. We've done a couple projects last year, but it's really fun to kind of just be at the beginning and being able to create something that could be, you know, anything we want it to be. So.
Well, man, yeah, thanks y'all for hanging out.
Yeah, thanks so much for having us.
Yeah, it's been a blast.
So for anybody listening, definitely check out their website for EASTHAMA. Also on YouTube, EASTHAMA Duo page. They have awesome videos. They have theirs of Mother Goose Suite that they arranged. That's really high quality video, like cool lighting, like lots of shots. Like it's a treat. Their new one, Sorcerer's Apprentice, is out. They got Toccata. They got stuff of Hero. They've got individual. They've got everything. Check it out. You'll be there all afternoon. It's a good time. Well, yeah. Thanks for coming out again, and we'll catch everybody else on episode 6.